Bryan,
Alec,
good to see you,
good
dude.
seeing you, brother.
It's been a long time for this to come together.
Yes, sir, it has, actually.
It has, and we've been connected in the industry now for years.
Yes.
And now we get to work together, and that's just a blessing.
I know, I'm super excited. One of the big things for me was, coming here working with you. And, you're amazing on video, and so hopefully you can make me amazing on video, too.
Well, so let's... For you have a great reputation in the industry,
Mm-hmm.
and for people that are now going to be interacting with you for the first time, I'd love for you to share a little bit about your heart and passion, what you've been doing for the last decade for veterans,
Mm-hmm.
and really what drives you to excel.
Yep. So I'm in the military. I'm a military guy, third generation military. I've been serving in the Navy for over 20 years. Been in the mortgage business for 22. So all I've known is military and mortgage my whole life. Started really carrying the torch for veterans and military around 2008, but I didn't start climbing up this hill that we're going up right now with helping veterans become homeowners until about 2012, 2013 is when I really just zeroed in my focus nonstop on advocating and educating, not just the consumer, but realtors and also mortgage professionals.
Yeah, I want to unpack that a little bit because, you seem very passionate around what I've heard you call the three-legged stool,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's the right way to tackle education in general. So what are the three legs?
So you have the consumer, the vet, military,
Of course,
and their family. Then you have the mortgage professionals, right? The loan officers, and then let's be honest. For a while there, the single most important person actually in the transaction, at least in their eyes, the realtor.
Of course. Yeah, and that makes total sense now. As you explain it, all those people, if there's a missing education piece on it, they miss out on this incredible benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's just go through each of those three together.
Yep.
And kind of unpack it. So let's talk about the veteran first.
Yep. So veterans, and that's how I progressed. Actually, I started at getting involved more with the military personnel. That's how I uncovered that there was a problem. Yeah. I had a lot of people I was serving with asking me a lot of questions that I thought were just a little too simple to, challenges to be dealing with at the time. So I started educating people I served with, like, hey, don't let them do this. They shouldn't be ordering appraisals on Earls. They shouldn't be doing this. You know what I mean? And when they were like, man, my loan officer's telling me to do this, this, and this, then I started unpacking it a little bit more, going, okay, well, what kind of training are we doing in-house, mortgage company, for originators, for VA? And then, unfortunately, by doing that, I uncovered the fact that there wasn't any.
Yeah.
And then also, too, at that time, underwriting pretty much underwrote VA like it was an FHA deal.
Right.
So then I had that to deal with, right? So then I'm like, okay, well, we need to come up with some kind of curriculum to help loan officers better navigate this problem. And then once you start unpacking that, then you realize, okay, loan officers are like, well, I would love to do more VA, but realtors, have a lot of anxiety around it. And then you find out the anxiety is around something that happened in 1980, right? Or the big bad appraiser, like we like to call them, right? Yeah. And then you're like, okay, well, now we need to take it one step further and start educating the realtors who, at that point in time, were typically the tip of the spear, I would say, right? Because the consumer goes to the agent first.
Yeah, it's a very fair comment. I mean, the real estate professionals, the great ones, they control a lot of influence with the customer, and they should. They're the captain of the ship in a lot of the ways that, especially you're talking, Nokia and BlackBerry days where the internet wasn't in our pocket.
Right.
Yeah, very crucial. So that makes sense. So, it's an interesting progression from vets who don't know about their benefit. And you actually go a little deeper on that because you mentioned something that I thought was so fascinating, that often vets weren't even educated about this when they were going through their service.
Yeah. So, when you transition off of active duty, you go through a TAPS class, and I've done it 3 times now. And I can tell you that the first 2 times we didn't even talk about the VA home loan benefit. And actually, to be fair to transitioning military, especially on the reserve side, they're going through TAPS class trying to get out of TAPS class.
Understood. Yeah.
You know
yeah.
what
They're
I mean?
looking.
Like,
They're looking already. They're already
right.
behind.
I've been
it.
13 months or 12 months
Yeah.
or 7 or 8 months in the desert. I'm not trying to hang out
I don't
here
wanna be
for
here.
another 3 weeks. I want to get home to my family. So whatever little tidbit they might give that you might qualify now for be
Funny.
entitled to a VA home loan benefit just went out the door.
Yeah.
But there really wasn't any education around it. So you have this large group of veterans who most of them don't even think that's the, you know, I give you an example. When I used to teach a lot for agents in the St. Louis, in my backyard, I used to teach a ton. You know, the realtors would come up to me, especially ones that have served before, and they're like, man, I didn't even think I was ever entitled to one because I was just a reservist.
Exactly.
I was just a reservist, right? And I'm like, what do you just
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
So you had that going on with the consumer, right? So they just didn't know. And I can tell you, I just got back from a deployment in 23, and I will say, thank you, VA. The handbook that they give you that you transition out with now has a whole section dedicated to the VA home loan benefit. The problem, though, is the person that's standing up there talking about the whole book. It's not a mortgage professional. It's not a you know, somebody from the VA home loan guarantee. It's somebody who works for the, you know, Fleet and Family Readiness Center as a volunteer trying to help people through TAPS class. So I mean, they're content-wise they're getting there, but now they have to actually have people who can speak, you know, speak to it when they're talking to, you know, because there's about 85 to 100 people at a time going through those every 2 weeks, you know.
Yeah, and that's a good example of people that are leaving the military. What are people that are in the military? PCSing. I mean, is there anything there?
So, you know, now you got organizations that do go on bases and teach, but you got, you know, you got a lot of people, a lot of advocates out there who teach through military spouse organizations, which is really important because the spouses actually control the transactions anyway. Right.
I mean, especially if somebody's overseas or
100%. So, you know, educating through them, but still they, you know, they don't know. And also too, you know, like we were talking earlier, you know, when you're coming in off of, when you have PCS orders, you don't have a lot of runway, right? So, you know, sometimes you got 10 days of house hunting leave or whatever. You got a spouse that's overseas somewhere or just not in the same geographic location. So now this family, this spouse has to travel in, figure out if they're going to buy or rent within a very short window. So now, if they don't have a network that can provide them the guidance to get attached to a realtor who knows what they're doing and a mortgage professional,
it's just like
they're going to end up renting.
Yeah, which is probably what happens.
And that's what happens. So, and that's a problem.
Well, you like I mentioned earlier, you've been doing this for 10 years now. You know, what are you hoping to accomplish in the next 10? Like, what's on your mind?
You know, when I first started doing this, my big thing was education, right? I wanted to educate. I felt that if the worst thing I did every day was inform somebody about the VA home loan benefit and allowed them to make an informed decision, or spoke to a realtor and changed their mindset around VA, you know, I was winning.
Yep.
But after, you know, hard charging for a decade, and then really rolling sleeves up, getting involved in the community and all this other stuff, I think what I would really like to see over the next 10 years is, you know, being someone who impacted the military and veteran community, not just from, you know, helping them buy a house, but the whole life cycle and their whole journey of being a homeowner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I would love to see an environment where we treat the veteran client the same 6 months, 6 payments in, 6 years paying us than we did the very first day we met them when they were excited about buying a house.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's where I want to go with this. That's what I want to see. That's my definition of being number one. Is number one at every stop of the journey, not just number one in the front.
So let me wrap it up with three questions, or one question, 3 answers.
Sure.
So you mentioned 3 different parts of the stools: veterans, loan officers, realtors. For each of those constituents, what is the one thing you would tell them to focus on, or to get prepared for, or to get educated on? Let's start. Pick a category and let's go through all 3 of them.
So the consumer,
our vets.
Yeah, so the veterans and the active duty military members,
Yeah.
Two different ones, by the way. So let's just go military first. I think military, what they need to focus on is making sure that they're financially ready to buy a house.
It's a great comment.
One of the things about being a great company is to be able to tell people that, yes, I can get you the loan, and or you know what, it's just not the right time.
Yeah, and here's how to get ready.
And, and I don't know if the military side of the house does a very good job of, making sure their families are, financially ready to move, right? So that's a big thing for them. Veterans just understand the benefit, do your research, do your homework, understand where you're moving to. Understand, some of the things that drives me nuts when I see, people looking at houses, and sometimes is, understanding the type of house you're looking at. Is it a fixer-upper? Is it brand new construction? Understanding what you're actually looking at, and then, how can the VA home loan benefit help you acquire that property? And is it the right fit for what you're trying to buy?
Yeah, I love that message for the active military, which is get prepared.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you need to pull the trigger, but if you do get that 10-day window of, if you do and what your credit profile's at, what kind of loan you already qualify for, and that's just in your back pocket, you got a lot more options.
Absolutely. Like like we talk about there's that like double-edged sword, right? Pre-approval, pre-qualified, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you have a good network and you are already doing your research, and the active duty military likes to reach out to spouses in the next community they're moving to in their little Facebook groups and stuff like that, and they get hardwired in with a great mortgage professional.
Yeah, change your life.
They're already going to have them check their credit. They're already going to find out what their finances look like,
get them prepared.
Find out how much they can afford, what their new BAH is going to be, and let them know what they can go look at instead of just coming in blind.
That's great. It's fantastic. All right, let's talk about our realtor partners.
So realtor partners, they're the best ones because, with them, unfortunately, the old guard has done a disservice to our industry as a whole because they had such a bad experience with VA. And I'm not saying that VA was, not guilty in a lot of things, because back in the 80s and 90s, I've always heard that it was really a challenge. They didn't really make it easy. But you got that kind of information, being pushed down to the new agents.
Yeah, bad coaching, bad comments.
Right.
Yeah.
The VA appraisal's terrible. So any opportunity they can get to take VA education, to learn from, folks like David at loanDepot.
Yeah.
Are a lot of these nonprofits that teach.
Yeah.
Do it. They do it anyway on other stuff.
Yeah.
So have a better understanding of this, because I can tell you, if you looked at the trajectory right now of VA over the last 5 years, it looks like a plane taking off from a runway.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not going anywhere, and it's only people are becoming more aware of what the benefits are, and more people are getting confident and wanting to do them. So it's here to stay. So get sharp on it.
Well, and with a hard market like we're in, and lack of inventory and lots of just challenges, getting really competent with understanding the VA product opens you up to a whole new buyer and seller set of audience for a realtor.
100%.
Because today, if you're not farming veteran, opportunities, and that's just because you think the VA loan's too tough or you want to focus over here, you're missing out on a giant population to expand your business.
Well, and another thing too is veterans refer you 10 times as much business as a normal person. Once you become their person and they have trust in you, they will refer you until they can't breathe anymore.
And let's bring it home with your message to LOs. What do they need to be focused on right now about this?
I would say take as much education as you can. Get yourself a mentor, someone that you know and trust that does VA. But also too, I always say that if you're passionate and you're sincere, the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, conviction.
If you're passionate to serve this, community, and you're sincere about your, efforts, and your willingness to take the education and learn from people who have been doing it, because nobody knows everything about VA. It's an ever-changing thing, right? No deal's the same. We're practitioners. We're not experts, and find yourself a practitioner learn from them. And then it's all about sets and reps. You can't be the best at VA if you're not doing them, right? So, put yourself out there and start doing them.
Yeah, I love that. And I would also just share a word of encouragement for people that aren't veterans or didn't serve. That doesn't preclude you. Like, you can still get in the game.
Absolutely not. Some of the best VA loan officers I know in this country are not veterans.
Well, and it's in my opinion, it's a way to give back.
Absolutely.
Go get educated and serve people who've served you. I mean, what better way to pay it forward? So
100%. The dream of home ownership is a real thing on the list of a military or veteran. I mean, it's real, right? So, and like I've said, I've helped veterans in the years who never thought they would ever be able to get a VA loan in their entire life, didn't even know that they were entitled to one. And when you do that for them, and it changes their life, people that have been renting their whole life, it changes their life, man.
Dude, I'm so impressed by your track record, your service, and your commitment to veterans the last 10 years. I'm so thankful to have you on Team loanDepot because there's so much alignment we all have towards veterans here. And I just cannot wait to see what you do the next 10, brother. So
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.